Am I going to be upgrading my Sony ZV-1 to the Mark II? Probably not. Hello Epic people, Mike here, and today I'm going to be talking about why I'm not so interested on the announcement of the new Sony ZV-1 Mark II, and a couple reasons why I'm probably not going to be upgrading from my Mark I. It seems like every day you wake up you hear a new camera announcement, and this one, the Mark II of Sony ZV-1, I was actually very interested on the Mark II because I was actually using my Sony ZV-1 ever since it got released, and I really like this camera. It's so versatile, it's so compact, and all the image and video that's coming out from this camera was so nice. And I even made a video about getting S-Cinetone on my Sony ZV-1, and if you guys haven't seen it, I'll link it somewhere here. And I've been using this ever since, like on variety of stuff. Like I've been using it for talking head on YouTube, used it for BTS stuff, family stuff, making reels. It does everything so well, but there were a couple of things that I actually did wanted to improve on the Mark II, which some they did, but not enough for me to upgrade. So first, let's talk about the biggest change, which is the lens that Mark II is gonna come out with. Yes, a lot of people's main complaint about the Sony ZV-1 was not having the wider lens for vlogging, because the Mark I has a 24-70 full frame equivalent. The new one is 18-50 millimeters. So you are getting significantly wider lens, but I know you guys probably saw a whole bunch of videos, and this new 18-50 millimeter lens, it is f4 on the tele side of things. And that's a problem because ZV-1 having a 1-inch sensor, one of the weakest point is low light, and not being able to have 2.8 is a little bit big in my opinion, at least, because having wide angle is nice, but if your 24 millimeter is too tight for you, there's always a way to have it far away and have all the background, which is like, you know, having some cheap small tripod and you just screw it on your Sony ZV-1, then you have a wider angle, so you'll be able to, you know, get more background. So there's always an alternative way to do it, but for low light performance, it's really hard for you to get more light unless you get a light and you start shining everywhere or bumping up the ISO. But bumping up ISO will introduce more noise. So I'd rather have a better low light capability than having a wider lens. And another shocking thing is they took out the lens stabilization on the 18-50 millimeter lens. They gave us the wider angle for vlogging, but they took out the lens stay because yes, Sony active lens stabilization is great, but most of the vloggers, they wanted to talk and move around, and I think having a lens stave is going to help on top of the active stabilization. But I think on Sony's opinion, they gave us wider lens, which is a little bit less prone to showing the camera shake. I think that's the main reason that they took out the stave. I don't really know, but I would still prefer having lens stabilization just for whenever we need it. So that was a very big turnoff in my opinion, that lens not having stave and having f4 on the tele side of things. That is probably #1 reason why I'm going to be sticking with my Sony ZV-1 Mark I. And there's other little improvements like how they changed the location of the 1/4-20 hole so it won't interfere with the battery door or the memory card door. But that was something that I didn't really care about because 99% of the time I had a cage attached to my Sony ZV-1, which gave my camera more protection, better grip, and more holes and cold shoe. And on top of that, and it gave me a lot of 1/4-20 on the bottom of the cage where I can position my tripod to a point where it won't affect the door of the battery and the memory card door. And I had it on for 99% of the time, so that wasn't an issue at all. And yes, the Mark II actually has better autofocus and better menus. But to be honest with you, I think any Sony camera that you buy or came out like past 1 or 2 or even 3 years, their autofocus has been really great. And I have no complaints on the autofocus performance on the current Sony ZV-1. And more improvement on that, I don't know how much is actually going to be improving the quality of the video or my workflow when I'm using the Sony ZV-1. And for such a small amount of change, in my opinion, they still raised the price on the new Mark II by $150. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be lowering the ZV-1, the Mark I prices. And at that point, I think the Sony ZV-1 Mark I is a better buy for the money. But there are certain things that I really wish that the Mark II had, and one of them was being stronger ND filter. Yes, the ZV-1 does have ND filter, which is great, but when you're shooting on a daylight, your ND filter is still too weak, where I still have to crank up the shutter and aperture to get the right exposure. So I was really hoping the Mark II would have a stronger ND filter, but it seems like it's still the same. And the second thing that I really wanted was 10-bit color. Yes, the Sony ZV-1 came out in between, I think, A7 III and A7 IV or something like that, where they still had the 8-bit. But now all the Sony cameras that are coming out, it seems like they have 10-bit for video, but the Mark II still doesn't. If it was just for the 10-bit, I'll probably have upgraded, but having the same sensor 8-bit, it's just seems like they're just recycling the parts and stuff like that. Another thing I really wanted, because this was more of a video-centric camera, I wish they lowered the megapixel a little bit and then, you know, give better low-light performance. But obviously, using the same sensor, I don't think that's gonna happen. So it's a bummer. I'll probably wait for the third Mark III if they ever come out with it. And yeah. So before I end this video, please comment down below what your plans are. If you own any of the ZV cameras, what do you think about this new Mark II ZV-1? Are you planning on upgrading or not? I'm very curious because I'm kind of confused why Sony actually brought out this camera, which is not so much of a difference in my opinion. I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for saying this, but I'm really curious to know. Please comment down below if there's a good reason that I didn't catch. You might, you know, change my opinion on it. But so far, I'm gonna be sticking with my Sony ZV-1. So that's it for me today. Hopefully you guys liked my video. If you guys did, please like and subscribe if you guys are looking for more camera related content. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.